talk a little bit about light sensitivity. When we were talking earlier, I really liked what you said about light sensitivity, the term itself almost being as vague as when people say I have pain, in the sense that it can mean a lot of different things to different people. So talk a little bit about when someone says I have light sensitivity, what other questions you ask or what it is that you're thinking in terms of like a differential diagnosis.
That's a good question. So yeah, light sensitivity can mean so many things. It's photosensitivity is a name for, or photophobia. So there's all these different terms for I don't like light, Um, for me, when I hear someone come in, I'm like, oh my gosh, so that means absolutely in my head, I'm like thinking, okay, that means absolutely nothing. Okay, let's just do the test, right? Because it could be so many different things. So dry eyes can cause light sensitivity because if you have a poor tear film, so you got your eyeball, tear film on the eyeball. If this tear film is unstable, it causes exposure to the front of the eye to air. And when there's exposure, there's a trigeminal nerve. It's like the sensory nerve. It gets stimulated pretty crazy. And when it gets stimulated, you feel that burning sensation or achiness or whatever. And then the brain's like, oh, I don't like that. Throws the fire hydrant on. Lacquer around produces all this tears, and suddenly you get all this wateriness, right? So a lot of people are like, oh, my eyes aren't dry, they're watery. But watery eyes are typically pretty hallmark for either allergies or dryness. So like that's one thing that can cause a light sensitivity because when you have all this overstimulation, it's hard to focus. It could be a gaze stability issue, like we mentioned before. If you have poor gaze stability, that can cause light sensitivity. It could be a poor pupillary effect. So the pupil is that the black circle. That's the pupil, and the muscles around the iris can either contract or dilate, get big. When it contracts, that's a parasympathetic response or rest and digest, but not really rest and digest. And then when it gets dilated, it's a sympathetic response. So when you're outside, automatically your eyes constrict, kind of like an aperture in a camera, to let less light in. Because if it's bright, it gets smaller, so there's less light coming in. But if you have poor automaticity in this, and it goes like more like this slowly, or sometimes they have what's called a poor sustained pupillary contraction. So they go like this, and then suddenly it goes like that. It can't sustain. So you have this like ebb and flow of light coming in and out. So the brain can't process that, which can be light sensitivity as well. There's all these different things. Those are like one of many things that could be that can cause these issues with light.
And then
Sometimes
there's
even like, oh, go
the
ahead. Yeah.
sensitivity to flicker as well, which you have basically a test where you can measure if
Yeah.
somebody's extra sensitive to the flickering of lights.
Correct. Yeah. So I guess going back to the light sensitivity too, like it could be an eye teaming thing. So people have it's called an intermittent exotropia. So sometimes their eyes go out, sometimes it doesn't. That Sometimes the symptom for that is light sensitivity too. So they'll close one eye when they're outside and they're more sensitive to light. So there's all these things that can cause it. So basically, I guess what we're looking at is like, it's not like, okay, they have light sensitivity. That's great. It's a symptom, right? What's actually causing it? So like, that's the same thing with red eye. Like, oh, you have red eye. It could be allergy. It could be bacteria. It could be viral. It could be so many different things. It could be an autonomic dysfunction. It could be inflammatory. So there's all these different things it could be. So when someone comes in with light sensitivity or red eye, I'm like, okay, great. Let's just do the test and see what's going on with the body, right? Same thing with the flicker rate. Like people that have concussions, they might have poor processing of like flicker rate. So like when we say flicker rate, that's like hertz. So when you look at like a fluorescent light, now I'm pulling numbers out of the air right now because I can't remember the numbers. I always have to look them up. But like a fluorescent light might be like, I don't know, 60 hertz or whatever. But if your brain can't process those hertz, or if it's kind of dysfunctional, fluorescent lights the flicker rate of a fluorescent light or a TV might bother them. So that's a whole brain thing as well. So things like that can actually affect you. So if lights bother you, it could be a flicker frequency like processing issue. It could be a dryness issue and so forth.
Got it. And then you have this very cool tool where it flickers at different frequencies, and then you have your patient look at it and basically
Yeah.
tell you when they see the flicker start and then when they see it go away.
Mhm.
And that tells you kind of if their range of perception of that flicker is kind of within a normal range, correct?
Correct. Yeah, because concussions can actually affect that. And so, like the test, what it does is like it flickers where you actually see a flicker, right? So sometimes when you have a bad fluorescent bulb or whatever, you'll see that kind of flickering of the light. So it's flickering at a lower hertz. So the faster it goes, the harder it is to eventually see. So eventually, when it hits a certain number where it's flickering so fast, and even when you see light that it's not flickering, it's still flickering. It's just flickering at such a high speed that your brain and eyes can't see it anymore. And sometimes people have like a higher issue, or see like they have such a higher like flicker rate where they're seeing pretty much everything. So all these little nuances of the light can bother them. It's like overstimulating them. That goes back to the whole error correction. Like there's only so much your brain can handle and so much your brain can filter. I guess going back to the whole concussion thing with this podcast is that, like a lot of times concussions affects the brain's ability to correct error and filter information. So when it can't filter information and it can't correct errors anymore, or at a reduced rate, that's where you have all those symptoms like light sensitivity, dizziness, and so forth. That's what it comes down to, is like being able to like filter. We can't People that have brain issues, they can't filter out information. So now like instead of seeing like parts of things, now they like everything's coming into their brain. Their brain's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? In fact, in my opinion, your vision itself, like there's so much information just looking around you. Like I'm looking at this, there's all this stuff around me. In fact, I'm right in front of this huge window where I'm looking outside too. If my brain couldn't filter all this out, all this information will be coming in and I just go system overload. So the brain's really good at filtering out certain information coming in, where it's good at picking out the most important things. So it's called a perception span. So perception span is the ability for the brain to like take in critical information and apply it. People that can't do that either can't see anything, or they see too little, or they see too much. And then that creates this filtering issue, kind of like a funnel effect, which can cause more errors and cause symptoms and so forth.
And I would imagine a lot of the visual motion sensitivity that people experience, part of it is their brain failing to kind of filter out the unnecessary information, and therefore their brain is just bombarded with every single thing that's moving in the environment.
Yep, that's part of the equation, filtering and error correction, right? So like there's too much information coming in, brain can't filter it, there's too much errors, brain can't correct for it, thus the motion sensitivity.